gosh, I love that song. When I saw The Entertainer when I was 10, I guess, that movie changed my life in a way where I fell in love with music 100%. I realized that music was in my soul or something. Ragtime made me so happy. So I knew I was going to have to learn the language of music at some point. It was one of the hardest things I ever did, learning the language of music, and I don't think I really have the language. I'm no fluent language music speaker, but uh, it was so difficult. Even before, I lost some of the hearing. It was just hard to understand music and learn it. And and when I did, it was a major moment in my life. I mean, when I finally got it figured out and I could start playing around and stuff, it was so great. Really helped me a lot because the guitar, is sort of a stimming technique in a way, and a way to relax and make creative thoughts happen in the brain, and to also create happiness. So music is great. Playing an instrument, I recommend it for anyone because it's so beneficial in so many ways. And I just got to say that, ragtime, it came out of the classical era for sure. And I mentioned before I like to play Bach, because it's got a lot of musical, kind of a mathematical rhythm to it that I really enjoy. I pick up on that rhythm and I start messing around with it and playing around and trying to have fun with it. But, Mozart was a protege of Bach. And Mozart is like, I'm just going to call it, I'm sure Mozart had autism. I mean, it seems really obvious to me. And so, Bach is like a titan, and then Mozart is like a superstar, rock star, a genius in classical music. And then we see Beethoven show up, and he met Mozart, kind of trying, making that connection. He met Mozart when Beethoven was a young man. But Beethoven is like the Grateful Dead. He has so much passion when he, especially Symphony Number 9, that whole symphony is what I'm talking about. I love every note in the symphony. And if you listen to Beethoven, you can see how he presages many riffs, movements, even in other symphonies, like for sure number 5, and even number 1 and number 3. Well, even the pastoral, I can see it. And symphony number 2. There's just so many, or was it 4? But there's so many moments in all of his music where you can hear that he's coming into making the symphony number 9, which is beautiful to watch and listen to and to know about, because then you can appreciate every note that he wrote, knowing that it accumulates into symphony number 9. And a little known fact, there was actually a symphony number 10 that he never finished, but he wrote part of it, and we have the music for it. And so even though he never saw it performed, we can see it performed. But it's the 9 that is the best. And when I went and saw it performed in Portland at the Met there, it was like at the Opera House. Carl Chalmers was the conductor, and that man has so much animus. And he's great because, what he does is before every show, he'll come. I've seen many shows there, but the Symphony Number 9 was like the best symphonic choral production I've ever seen in my life. Of course, Symphony Number 9. But Carl will come early. He'll be in his casual clothes and jeans, and then he'll just sit on the edge of the stage, and then we can all move up, whoever's there. There's maybe, usually there's about 50 of us, we'll sit wherever we want and ask him questions. And it's really great that he does that, Carl Chalmers. And before him, there was other names, but the one that I grew up with knowing about was DePriest. And man, that man was I mean, if you like conductors and you're in that world of music, James DePriest was, you know, a name. My one last name drop. I'm doing a lot of name dropping here, but my dad married a woman, and her father was second chair clarinet in the Cincinnati, you know, Symphonic Orchestra, and he was also a part of the Cincinnati Pops, and he's been on lots of, you know, records and stuff. And hanging out with that guy, you know, I mean, he was like my grandpa. I'd go fly to Cincinnati and just hang out with him, and we'd go check out caves in Kentucky and Tennessee. He took me down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's where I realized that I think everybody in Tennessee is nice. I don't know how they do it, you know, like I didn't know it at the time, but I have autism, and I knew I was a weird guy, you know. I knew I had a different personality when I was in Tennessee, and I'm looking for people to treat me funny or anything like that, but it never happened. It was like everybody that I met in Chattanooga was a nice person, and I'll never forget that about Tennessee. So hanging out with Carmine Campione, you know, my grandpa, was great. I learned a lot from him. I learned a really, really good magic trick, card trick. Really good one. It's the kind of card trick where I can shuffle the deck, and then I'll tell you that you're the magician and that you know psychically what card I'm going to put down on the table. Will it be a red card? You'll know what color it is. Or will it be a black card? And if you tell me, you can't see the card, but I'm holding them, and you tell me what color it is, and I'll put it face down in the red pile or the black pile, right? So you'll go like, maybe you'll play around and say 10 reds in a row. Boom, 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 all 10 cards into the red pile. Then you'll go red, black, or whatever, until the card pile is finished. And then I'll flip over the two you know, stacks, and I'll show you that you were 100% right. Every card that you picked red was in the red pile, and every card you picked black was in the black pile. It's such a great trick. I love showing that trick, especially to adults, because it's the kind of a trick that will fool an adult. And you know, if you can fool an adult, then you can start having interesting conversations about, not fool them, but I mean, if you can trick them with a magic trick, it'll open up their mind into thinking about options and ideas that maybe they weren't open to a few minutes ago. And that's why I like magic tricks and stuff like that. So some more things I'm going to try to catch up on and talk about that happened before in these other videos is, yeah, clearing the throat. That bothered me. Too much clearing of the throat. So it seems like I'm going to try to stop doing that. Seems like I do that when I get emotional a little bit. And so it's really a bad tell. Speaking of you know, playing poker or something, I never have been a good poker player, of course. But I definitely wanted to talk about some things that you might have noticed in other videos, and I want to bring them up. So I appreciate you being here. If you're watching this, that means you made it past the Red Sweater series, and you're okay with me as who I am, and you're willing to watch this video. So I appreciate that. If you haven't seen the Red Sweater series, maybe don't watch it, or if you really want to know what kind of a person I am, then go ahead and watch it. But I just got to say, there's a couple things. I definitely knew I had the puddle, you know, on the carpet. I knew when I made the Red Sweater series. And I thought to myself, well, here's this puddle. Should I not make the series, you know, should I not tape today? Should I move the carpet around so you know, you'll see the dry corner? And then I thought to myself, no, this is, not only is it unauthentic, but it's this is going to be a test to see if people will judge me and how bad they will. So I want to ask you, how bad did you judge me when you saw the puddle? I mean, I already know what you probably thought when I told you the truth of my past. But how about when you see somebody with dirty hands, or when you see somebody with a puddle? Well, I just want you to think about it, because I mean, I'm going to judge somebody with a puddle too, probably. Probably in a different way, though. You know, my mind will think about the reasons of why the puddle's there in, you know, like if you grew up on a farm, you might think of why the puddle's there. Like, did he take off his boots there and the boots were wet? Did the dog go to the bathroom? Which he would never do. He never did that, even when he was a puppy. He's such a good dog. But, so yeah, no, it wasn't boots, it wasn't the dog or anything like that. What had happened was, and this surprised me because I didn't know how the puddle was there for a few minutes until I figured it out before I made the red sweater series. What happened was it you know, had snowed that day, like I mentioned. And what I do here at the Music Shack is I do this at my other house too. You know, solar panels are important to me. I think that it's important to stop burning coal. And even around here, even though we use hydroelectric electricity generation, you know, we use the power of water, that's also harmful, you know, to aquatic life. And so, I mean, for example, the Klamath River, if you're interested in these kinds of things, they just opened up a dam just last week or in last few weeks. And that was a major thing to break open a dam like that. So anyway, you know, dams are going to start getting busted more and more, and we can't burn coal anymore. So what I've done here is I've set myself up off grid with solar panels, and it's great. You know, I mean, I generate more than enough electricity. Of course, I have them kind of stashed around the property where the sun is, and you know, I installed all the wiring, and I've done all the work around here actually. But anyway, getting off grid is really important to me. Well, when it snowed, there was snow on the solar panels. So what I did was you know, first thing when it snows, I go around and make sure that I get the snow off of any roof that is going to have weight issues. The second thing I do is I use my broom and I sweep off the solar panels with snow so that they can continue generating, you know, electricity. Well, I did that morning, and then later I made a video and forgot that I had a wet broom, you know. So I you know, wanted to sweep the floor for everybody to enjoy a cleaner floor than with wood bits, because sometimes I have wood bits when I burn a fire. Is that fire going? Yay, it's going. That's so good to see the fire going. Anyway, yeah, I swept that corner. That was where I started, and all the water from the broom right into that spot. And that's what it was. If you watch the entire Red Sweater series, you can actually see it starting to dry up. So that wet spot is explained. It's, you know, from when I swept with a wet broom, and the wet broom is from the snow, from the solar panels, and everything makes sense, you know. It's not bad, dirty, or anything. If you thought that, I want you to think about that a little bit, you know. I know I do it. I mean, I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say to myself. If I make a judgment about somebody, like this happened the other day, actually, just a couple weeks ago. I volunteered at the, you know, at the, like, it's not the food bank, but it's through our church, and it's a community service, and it's like a soup kitchen kind of a thing. And so before we start serving dinner, I like to go with a garbage bag. And with my autism, I've got like this eye for detail. And so I just go around and pick up every small single piece of garbage, big pieces, little pieces. Everybody hates to pick up that garbage. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are waiting for food, or they're around that building getting services and stuff like that. And they may have garbage throughout the day that they leave around, you know. And so I like to pick it up before we start serving dinner, because it's nice to live in you know, it's nice to make people feel like their environment is clean, you know, so that they, when they get food, feel like somebody cares for them. And that's what I would want. Anyway, well, I was picking up the garbage, and it was a particularly bad garbage scene. This building where we serve soup, dinners, not soup, sometimes soup, but, you know, it's soup kitchen. This building, it's also a house where people can spend the night and use the phone and get services if they need it. It's right next door to a park, right across the alley. And in the park, homeless people will spend the day and sometimes generate a lot of garbage. And so anyway, I judged this man who pulled up. You know, he's got this $75,000 truck. And he pulls up and he starts just taking pictures of every piece of garbage, you know, in the park and everything. And I'm there with a garbage bag to pick up the garbage. And so I say to him, you know, hey, don't worry, this garbage will all be gone in 10 minutes. I'm here to pick up the garbage. So if that's a problem, don't worry about it, because it's going to be gone in a few minutes, you know, to give him some hope that it will be in a better situation soon. And he didn't really care about that. He didn't give me any positive energy after I said that to him. But he did stop taking pictures. He got in his truck. He left. Well, later, when I was talking to some friends in the kitchen, you know, I kind of said out loud, that guy seemed like he was a jerk. And that's wrong. I mean, that was a judgment. I have to think about this. Like, you can't go around thinking that people are a jerk when they're not doing anything that is acting like a jerk. Technically speaking, he got out of his truck and took pictures, and that's not a jerky thing to do at all. I thought he was taking pictures for a bad reason and a jerky reason, you know. But and I don't know, for all I know, this guy is taking pictures because he's a member of the city council or something, and he's got ideas to help figure out the solution. I don't know why he's taking pictures. He seemed aggressive about it and like he was mad that there was garbage. And so I made a judgment. But I shouldn't do that. I don't know why he's doing it, and he didn't do anything in front of my face that made me think I should make a bad judgment against him, because he's taking pictures, you know. So anyway, that was just a little thought process in how I think about things. And so how do you think about things? You saw that wet spot. Anyway, so the wet spot is explained. Another thing I wanted to explain, I got my notes right here now, so I'm not going to hold them over here. But I do have my soundboard here. The sounds. The thing that goes along with the puddle, there was one of the videos, my dog picked up a little bone. He found a knuckle bone that he's been chewing on for the last year, I think. Anyway, he picked it up. He brought it in the house and he picked it up when I was talking. You can hear it. It sounds like there's something dropping on a floor in the distance, you know, just right there. And there was. He was picking up the bone and dropping it a couple times. And it sounded like, there was somebody off camera making noise. Well, later on in that video, he started getting quieter with the bone. But then suddenly he did make some noise. He dropped it and it made this it just bounced a little bit, made a reverberation sound. Anyway, it sounded like I was passing gas. And I gotta promise you, I would never, ever do something like that. I mean, I don't think I would even, burp really loud, because I'm just I don't mind if people do these things, but I'm not going to do them, because I feel bad when I do them. So just to explain some weird sounds, they're probably going to be from my dog. And I know that sounds like I'm blaming it on the dog, but that's what you got to do if that's the truth, right? So the dog picked up a little bone or whatever it was and dropped it on the floor, and it kind of made a reverberation sound, and it sounded weird. So if you don't know what that sound was, you might think, oh, what's that? And I'm seeing a moth fly around or something. So yeah, sounds and puddles, that's what that was. And now for some information. I made a mistake giving you the wrong information about which school I had gotten the honor roll. I had gotten the honor roll at the community college, and then my GPA at seminary, it's not important, but it was, 3.32. And so, whatever, for what it's worth, I just don't want to say the wrong information. You know, I'm watching these videos and I'm going, oh, they made a mistake there, made a mistake there. So I'm going to try to clarify it. I obviously made a mistake with the American Disabilities Act. Act. It's an act. I knew it was a law, a rule. It was an act. And I've known, I mean, I know the ADA, but I was having an executive function moment and I couldn't remember it and I didn't want to spend a lot of time pausing to get it specifically. But it was obvious that I knew that I was wrong when I said both administration and association. It was so funny to me. But ADA, you know, the American Disabilities Act. How could I ever forget? But I did. So it goes. Yeah, well, I also made another mistake, a small one, but I called the phone store library store for some reason. In one of my second videos, I think, you know, I said I went to the library store when I really meant to say I went to the phone store. And also sometimes I, you know, will start a fire and you know, it may not start for a while, so I'll just, like I said, I'm not having a fire right now because it was not important to me, but then I of course did start a fire earlier and it finally caught, and that's what that was all about. But anyway, oh, it's nice to see that the fire's working for us today. It's really good. So that's pretty much it. Let's see, do I have anything else? Yeah, I had one more thing on the other side. How did I break my phone? How did I break my phone? I don't want you to think that I, you know, had a meltdown and I'm the kind of person who would throw my phone around or anything like that. When I have a meltdown, it's pretty rare because I'm unmasked all the time, you know, but when the last meltdown I had was in 2020, and I cuss. What I do, I grew up with so many young men that were like in college and, you know, just not with, I mean, bachelors mostly, right? Most of these guys in my early age were not married yet. So I don't know if it's a generational thing or what, but the people around me cussed like sailors. They cussed a lot. Cussing used to happen a lot more than it does now. Thank God. It's definitely aggressive and it's almost violent. And I don't know if I had to get used to it or what, but unfortunately, you know, if I'm melting down, it feels good for me to cuss like a salty sailor. And I always feel bad about it later. And I always try to not do it around anybody, you know, like hopefully if I can get to the car or something or get home. But it definitely feels good. Like it says in some really great books, you know, don't let the sun go down on your anger. If you're mad about anything, let it out. Don't hold it in, because holding it in, you know, I think holding in anger and emotions like that can lead to physical sickness, like even cancer. But, you know, let it out as healthy as you can, whatever that means to you. But so for me, how did I break my phone? Well, phones are sensitive. You know, I would drop my phone and I dropped it one too many times. So I was going to say, though, I don't like to buy the cases for the phones. Everybody always tries to sell me the case when I buy a phone, and they're like, you got to have this case or your phone's going to get ruined, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just build a phone that doesn't have to have the case? What are you doing? You're just making more products for us to have to buy. So that's number one. Number two, I don't like the bulkiness of these cases. You know, like the original iPhone is the best size, the best shape. You could set it up on its side and watch TV. You know, it had corners. It was smaller than a deck of cards, so your hand could totally work it. There was just it was for me it was the perfect size, and then they kept getting bigger, and even my big hands, which I think I have kind of large hands, that you couldn't operate these phones anymore, and I had to use two hands, and that means you can't, do other things. So how did it break? I accidentally dropped it, and it never started up again. I mean, I dropped it one too many times. I just kept, not kept, but I dropped it once before I moved up here, and it broke some of the glass on the backside. And they make them so slippery. You know what I mean? You buy a new phone, it's like so slippery you can't even hold on to it. It's just slipping out of your hands. I think they're doing this on purpose. Well, why do they need our phones to be so slippery for? I'll put it up on the edge of the bed, and it slides right off the bed and lands on the ground. That's what happened. It did exactly that. It's looking at a bird. It slid off the bed and landed on the ground. And I thought, well, that's it's done that 6 times already since I bought the phone. It should be okay, but it wasn't. It was the last time the phone decided to be, okay about that. This bird out here, I'm looking at it. It's a robin. I put bird seed and plants out there for birds to come, hummingbirds and stuff. And this robin is really interested in my little flower bed I've got going out there. I think he's interested in the seeds, probably mostly. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I think that's it. I've been watching, all my favorite channels, and it's like, everybody's back on track. We're all in good spirits, it seems like, and I'm learning so much. I'm watching more of autistic channels than I am of anything else right now. Spending all my time trying to learn, and now that I have this channel, learn a little bit about how to do the channel a little better, and things like that. But I guess the most important thing about this video is just I'm hoping that the mistakes I've made in the other videos aren't going to make people judge too harshly about me. And if you don't like people who smoke marijuana, then and if that makes you not like a person, then I guess that's going to be how you are as a person, and that's okay. A lot of people have been like that in my life, and so that's fine. That's where you're at right now. And I like to be with people that are in a different place than that. I like to be around people that are willing to accept any unusual oddity with an open heart, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, just take for one example. There was, when I had the coffee shop, the Daily Planet coffee shop in Salem, we had our very first customer. I mean, I'm talking about the customer who gave us the first dollar, the dollar bill that you put on the wall as the first dollar that you ever got. That man, his name is Norm. He used to be a state worker. He used to be, the stories I heard was that he was a highly intelligent type person, state worker. People would go to him for his knowledge. I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but he had a psychological break. And, what happened to him was he couldn't work anymore, and he ended up being kind of homeless. He got on the dole. He got money every month from the state, thank God, and would try to survive with that. A lot of it's really sad, but a lot of people in Salem know that there are people that get money from the state every month, and they try to prey on these, like pariahs. They prey on these people that are usually in bad situations and need help and friends and everything. And then, they'll always have a friend right around the first of the month, or whenever that time of the month is when they would get that check. And so when our coffee shop started, we were right across the street from a house that was called a halfway house for, mentally disabled people that are not able to live on their own, but almost, kind of. And so we had a whole program we encouraged them to come over here to our coffee shop, and we had special prices of coffee and just special products for them that they could afford. We would start a credit system and try to get them involved in understanding how things might, credit worked. Things in the future, you have to think about these things and save your money and not just blow it all at once. And we'd do as much as we could to help people out, and it would seem to work. I would never forget the one time I'd be working at the espresso machine, but then I'd turn around and we had this bar that was horseshoe shaped, a U-shaped bar. And at the end of the bar, there'd be I turned around and there was like a state worker, there was an attorney, there was a guy from across the street, college student, a guy who looked like he was punk maybe, and they were all sitting at the bar having a conversation with each other. And to me, that was like, I wish I had a camera, but I'll never forget it. Because to me, that was the whole purpose, the whole point of the coffee house, really, was to have that kind of, friendship, engender that kind of relationship with the community, with each other. And it was working. It was working. Long story short about the coffee shop, we had it for a number of years, but the owner of the coffee shop, there was actually, this building had two businesses, a restaurant on one side, Hasuna and his Middle Eastern restaurant was on one half, and he was from Libya, and he was really great. He was a pretty interesting guy. But then on our half, we had the Daily Planet. We had maybe 3/4 of the building, and the restaurant had 1/4 of the building. And the owner of the building was a man and a wife, and they had some kids, and they lived in a town near Salem called Silverton. He was a PE teacher at the high school. And I forget what she did, but nonetheless, they drove one day tragically to the coast and got into a car wreck. And I think one of the parents survived and one of the children survived. It was just awful. But within the year after that happened, the family sold their building to a property management company. And they came in, the property management company, and looked at our rent prices and said, "What? This is way too cheap. You guys," they tripled our rent, and Hasuna and I were like, nah, I don't think we're going to do that. So we sold, both of us at the same time, sold our businesses, but that's why we stopped with the coffee shop. And that's maybe a good time to stop here. Yeah, that's probably a good time to stop here. Have a great day, guys. I want to say, all the platitudes here, but I always sound so funny. So I'm just going to say, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.